Hello, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Amber Stewart, and I'm the owner of the Stew Project, where I help busy professionals maximize their living potential by simply taking an emphasis on wellness. Now, May is National Mental Health Awareness, and honestly, I've been wanting to do this. Health coach PSA. Technically, it's not a health coach PSA, it's like a short webinar. But I've been wanting to do this since April because April was Stress Awareness Month. And if you're returning, if you don't know, I started the Stew Project, my business, because I witnessed firsthand how having a busy lifestyle, let limiting beliefs run your life, being a people pleaser, trying to do it all, be a boss, work your way up the corporate ladder and have the perfect relationship with the imperfect person can cause anxiety, chronic stress, health issues, burnout, and even depression. So when it comes to mental health, I feel like I have experienced all of the above. Well, I have experienced all of the above and I've overcome it, which is why today we are going to be talking about emotional resilience and how to use it to overcome stress and anxiety. So, without further ado, we are about to get started. All right, so getting into the nitty gritty, how do you collect yourself after a stressful event? Because emotional resilience is when you are able to calm your frantic mind after encountering a negative experience. It is intrinsic motivation and inner force by which we can hold ourselves through all the downsides of life. Emotional resilience is a trait that is there since birth and continues to develop throughout life. Now, Nelson Mandela said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Um, Now, emotional resilience means bouncing back from a stressful encounter and not letting it affect our internal motivation. It is not a bend but don't break trait, but it is accepting the fact that, sure, you may be broken, but you continue to grow with the broken pieces together. All right. So when we are resilient, we are not only able to adapt ourselves to stress and disappointment, but we also grow the insight to avoid actions that might lead us to face such situations. Consider the following example. Say there's a guy named Mr. A who is a computer engineer, a dependable worker, a loving husband, and a great manager. Now, Mr. A starts his work on time and is focused. He is keen to learn from his mistakes, never procrastinates, and therefore never fails a deadline to get escalated, like many of his friends do. He is happy with what he has been able to achieve so far. So, this so if you've guessed it, Mr. A is emotionally resilient. So coping with stress, or should I say effectively coping with stress, contributes directly towards building resilience. Now, the whole idea of being emotionally resilient revolves around how well we are able to handle stress and get back on track. Getting tied down with daily stressors of life can be a big reason that we lose our emotional resilience. We become more sensitive, overreactive, and emotionally unbalanced. Even a little change of plans can leave us in a state of anxiety and panic. Now, studies have indicated that resilient individuals can deal with stress more effectively. They can bounce back from any stressful situation with positive energy and confidence, and they are more likely to learn lessons from traumatic encounters rather than get overwhelmed by them. Now, today, we will unpack how to overcome your own anxiety and stress and build your own resilience. Today's topics will be discussed include: first, understanding the difference between good and bad stress, the link between anxiety and stress, and then finally, how to manage your stress. So, the difference between good and bad stress. Now, as you develop the capacity to better recognize and understand your own emotions, you'll find it easier to appreciate how others are feeling, improving how you communicate and help your personal and professional relationships to flourish. And as you bring stress into balance and learn to tolerate even unpleasant emotions, you'll discover that your capacity for experiencing positive emotions has grown and intensified. You'll find it easier to play, laugh, and experience joy no matter how stressed or emotionally out of control you feel. All right, so as you develop the capacity to better recognize and understand your own emotions, you'll find it easier to appreciate how others are feeling, improving how you communicate and helping your personal and professional relationships to flourish. And as you bring stress into balance and learn to tolerate even unpleasant emotions, you'll discover that your capacity for experiencing positive emotions has grown and intensified. You'll find it easier to play, laugh, and experience joy no matter how stressed or emotionally out of control you feel now. By drawing on these tools, life can and will get lighter and brighter. Now, in his book, Emotional Resilience: How to Safeguard Your Mental Health, Dr. Harry Berry, a general psychologist and an expert in cognitive behavioral therapy, says that the reason why some people are better at managing stress than others is their resilience power. Exposure to toxic stress, aka burnout, evokes intense emotions, and our coping mechanisms are immediately deployed to manage the situation. Dr. Berry says resilient people are better and quicker at deploying these coping strategies and hence can adapt to difficulties with better comfort. Furthermore, he has mentioned that although some people are born with better resilience and emotional balance than others, with the right guidance, we are all capable of building ourselves as emotionally resilient and psychologically mature human beings. So, moving on to good stress. So, good stress, or what psychologists refers to as eustress, is the type of stress we feel when we are excited. Our pulse quickens and our hormones surge, but there is no threat or fear. We feel this type of stress when we ride a roller coaster, compete for a promotion, or go on a first date. There are many triggers for this good stress, and it keeps us feeling alive and excited about life. Feeling stressed can feel perfectly normal, especially during exam time. You might notice that sometimes being stressed out motivates you to focus on your work, yet at other times you feel incredibly overwhelmed and can't concentrate on anything. While stress affects everyone in different ways, there are two major types of stress: stress that's beneficial and motivating, which is good stress, which is what we're going to discuss in a little bit, and the stress that causes anxiety and even health problems, which is what we're going to talk about later. So, what is stress? Because according to experts, stress is a burst of energy that advises you on what to do. In small doses, stress has many advantages. For instance, stress can help you meet daily challenges and motivate you to reach your goals. In fact, stress can help you accomplish tasks more efficiently. It can even boost memory. Stress is also a vital warning sign producing the fight or flight response. When the brain perceives some kind of stress, it starts flooding the body with chemicals like epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol. This creates a variety of reactions, such as an increase in blood pressure and heart rate. Plus, the senses suddenly have a laser like focus so you can avoid physically stressful situations, such as jumping away from a moving car in order to be safe. In addition, there are various health benefits with a little bit of stress. Researchers believe that some stress can help to fortify the immune system. For instance, stress can improve how your heart works and protect your body from infection. In one study, individuals who experienced moderate levels of stress before surgery were able to recover faster than individuals who had low or high levels. So, some researchers have suggested that exposure to a moderate level of stress that you can master can make you stronger and better able to manage stress. It's like how a vaccine, which contains a tiny amount of the bug, can immunize you against getting the disease. Now, Richard Deinspier's theory of mental toughness suggests that experiencing some manageable stressors with recovery in between can make us more mentally and physically tough and less reactive to future stress. One possibility is that such experiences lead us to view stressors as more manageable and become more skillful at dealing with them. Some studies by Professor Siri and colleagues at UCLA seem to bear this out. They followed a national sample of subjects for several years, assessing how much stress they had experienced in their lives, their recent stressors, and any mental health factors, as well as their overall life satisfaction. And the researchers found the following. Uh, that people with a history of some lifetime adversity reported better mental health and well being outcomes than not only people with a high history of adversity, but also than people with no history of adversity. So the researchers concluded that in moderation, whatever does not kill us may indeed make us stronger. So, why does experiencing moderate stress make us tougher? So, results of these studies suggest that some history of experiencing stressors might be good for us, perhaps because this makes us less reactive to our current life events. And here are some possible reasons why. So, perhaps experiencing a bit of stress makes us hardier and better able to tolerate and adapt to life's difficulties. Going through a moderate stressor like relocating or breaking a limb may help us learn new skills like sociability or patience we can apply later in life. Next, we may gain confidence in managing stress with the idea that if I can do this, then I can do the next difficult thing. And also, we may be less likely to fear change. For example, we may learn that it's okay to leave a toxic relationship or a bad job that we can survive and even thrive afterwards. Research shows that seeing your stressor as a growth opportunity helps you perform better in stressful laboratory tasks like public speaking and in stressful jobs like sales. So, revert people who report never experiencing any stress may be too averse to taking reasonable risks, making them less likely to reach for their goals in life and relationships. Now, going on to sources of good stress, because yes, you can add good stress to your life. Ideally, you choose activities and set goals that make you feel good, happy, and exciting. To gauge whether or not an activity is worth your time, pay attention to how the thought of it makes you feel. Do you feel excited? Is it something you want to or have to do? Be sure that your want to activities are all things you really want to do, and your have to activities are absolutely necessary. Now, let's talk about bad stress. And another type of stress is bad stress, which is probably one that you more likely know. And there are two types of bad stress. There is acute stress, and this comes from quick surprises that need a response. Acute stress triggers the body's stress response as well, but the triggers aren't always happy and exciting. This is what we normally think of as stress or bad stress. Acute stress in itself doesn't take a heavy toll if we find ways to relax quickly. But once the stressor has been dealt with, we need to return our body to homeostasis or its pre-stress state to be healthy and happy. Now, chronic stress is another form of bad stress, and it occurs when we repeatedly face stressors that take a heavy toll and feel inescapable. A stressful job or an unhappy home life can bring chronic stress. This is what we normally think of as serious stress because our bodies aren't designed for chronic stress. We can face negative health effects, both physical and emotional. And if we experience chronic stress for an extended period of time, because our bodies aren't designed for chronic stress, we can face negative health effects, both physical and emotional, if we experience chronic stress for an extended period of time. So, I know what you're thinking. Can good stress become bad stress? And the answer is yes. Good stress can become bad for you if you experience too much of it. And adrenaline junkies know this firsthand. And this is because your stress response is triggered either way. Whether it's good or bad stress, your body reacts the same. So if you're adding that to chronic stress or several other stressors, there is a cumulative effect. So we need to be in tune with ourselves and acknowledge when we've had too much. You may not be able to eliminate all stress, but there are often ways that you can minimize or avoid some of the stress in your life, and this can make it easier to handle the rest. And I'm going to have a couple tips at the end of this PSA. But until then, let's talk about the flip side on how bad stress can become good stress, all right? Because not all forms of bad stress can become good stress, okay? But it is possible to change your perception of some of the stressors in your life. And this shift can change your experience of stress. Now, the body reacts strongly to perceived threats. And if you don't perceive something as a threat, there is generally no threat based stress response. If you perceive something as a challenge instead, the fear you would normally experience may turn into excitement and anticipation, or at least resolve. Now, you can make a shift in perception by either focusing on the resources you have, seeing the potential benefits of a situation, reminding yourself of your strengths, and having a positive mindset or getting into the habit of thinking like an optimist. So, as you practice looking at threats as challenges more often, it becomes more automatic and you experience more good stress and less bad stress. And keep in mind, there are side effects to stress because stress is the key to survival, but too much can be detrimental. Emotional stress that stays around for weeks or months can weaken the immune system and cause high blood pressure, fatigue, depression, anxiety, and even heart disease. In particular, too much epinephrine can be harmful to your heart. It can change the arteries and how their cells are able to regenerate. I think one problem, because just to get off of subject a little bit, I know that I coach a lot of busy professionals, and a lot of them always make the excuse like, well, I have a big, full, busy life. Um, I love everything I do, so I don't want to stop, but I'm developing chronic health issues because of my wonderful life. And I think some people have a hard time making the connection that good stress can cause you heart problems and low grade inflammation and these health issues. So, just because you enjoy what you do and you're having a great time, you do need to factor in time and space in your life so you can rest, relax, and allow your nervous system to just lower. And I am not talking about using um, a video game, scrolling on social media, or anything to calm your mind because that still gets your brain focused. You need to focus on relaxing. But, anyway, let's talk about signals of too much stress. Because it may be tough to tell when you're experiencing good or bad stress, but there are important ways that your body lets you know that you're struggling with too much stress. So watch out for the following warning signs: inability to concentrate or complete tasks. You get sick more often with colds. You have body aches or other illnesses like autoimmune disease flare ups. You may have headaches, irritability, trouble falling asleep or staying awake, as well as changes in appetite, or more angry or anxious, or feeling more angry or anxious than usual. Now, let's talk about something that I enjoy, which is the amygdala hijack and the fight or flight response. So, have you ever lost control of your emotions and did something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? Mm. Perhaps you've lost it or blown up at someone, your partner or child, work colleague, or perhaps the driver of another car to such a degree that later you realize, like, that may be uncalled for. So, if your answer is yes, then you've probably been hijacked by your amygdala. So, the term amygdala hijacking was first used by psychologist Daniel Goleman in his 1995 book, Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ, to refer to an immediate and intense emotional reaction that's out of proportion to the situation. In other words, it means when someone loses it or seriously overreacts to something or someone. Now, Goleman's term aims to recognize that we have an ancient structure in our brain, which is the amygdala, that is designed to respond swiftly to a threat. While the amygdala is intended to protect us from danger, it can interfere with our functioning in the world where threats are often more subtle in nature. So when you see, hear, touch, or taste something, that sensory information heads to the thalamus, which acts as your brain's relay station. The thalamus then relays that information into the neocortex, or the thinking brain. From there, it is sent to the amygdala, which is the emotional brain, which produces the appropriate emotional response. However, when faced with a threatening situation, the thalamus sends sensor information to both the amygdala and the neocortex. If the amygdala senses danger, it makes a split-second decision to initiate the fight or flight response before the neocortex has time to overrule it. This cascade of events triggers the release of stress hormones, including the hormones epinephrine, aka adrenaline, and cortisol. These hormones prepare your body to flee or fight by increasing your heart rate, elevating your blood pressure, and boosting your energy levels, among other things. While many of the threats we face today are symbolic, evolutionarily, our brains evolved to deal with physical threats to our survival that required a quick response. As a result, our body still responds to the biological changes that prepare us to fight or flee, even though there is no actual physical threat with which we must contend. So, chronic stress and certain mental health conditions can play a role in the functioning of fear circuitry in the brain, which can result in greater chances of amygdala hijacking. So, people with post traumatic stress disorder, for example, show greater amygdala activation and therefore increased emotional response, including fear and anxiety responses. People with post traumatic stress disorder, for example, show greater amygdala activation and therefore increased emotional responding, including fear and anxiety responses. People with other anxiety disorders, such as social anxiety disorder and panic disorder, may respond more strongly in their amygdala. Even without a diagnosis of PTSD or anxiety disorder, chronic stress can lead to an overactive fear and anxiety circuit in your brain, which also reduces the function of other areas of the brain that help with inhibition of fear, such as the hippocampus. And all this means that chronic stress can trigger more frequent amygdala hijacks and even subsequent problems with short term memory, which is why it is important to work on understanding and taking charge of your emotional reactions. One way to do this is through preventative work. Learning coping mechanisms and planning ahead can positively influence how you will respond in times of stress and help avoid an amygdala induced overreaction. Now, there are two ways we can prevent or stop an amygdala hijack. The first one is through reasoning. This means that you use your frontal lobes to think the situation through, review the possible options, and choose the most rational and logical way to respond. The first step in preventing any amygdala attack is to identify what triggers it. When you feel the symptoms of amygdala hijack starting, try to pause for a moment to notice what triggered it. And if you need help, there is something called the 5-second rule, which can help you take action. And that's basically when you are in that state of like, where you want to react, you just stop. Try to find that white space. It's like, hold on now, wait. If you try to count to five, if you can't count to five, then just try to make that breath as long as possible so you can try to overrule the amygdala hijack. And you can be like, okay, you know what? This is when you see people all the time, just like when somebody triggers somebody, they're just like, I'm not going to go there with you. That is ideal way to prevent amygdala hijacking by way of reasoning. So, anything that causes emotional, physical, or mental stress can be a trigger. And there are general categories of stressors that affect everyone to some degree, but specific triggers will be different for everyone. Now, the second way to prevent an amygdala hijack is through meditation. By relaxing your body and mind through meditation or deep breathing, you can change your brain's focus from responding to a threat or stress to inner peace and calmness. When you feel threatened or afraid, pause and look for behaviors, bodily changes, or warning signs that are happening at the same time. A good way to do this is with mindfulness. This refers to staying in the present and being aware of what you're feeling and thinking, as well as your bodily sensations and stimuli for your environment. So don't try to judge or label a situation as good or bad. Instead, focus only on the current moment, not future tasks or past problems. So another way to stay present is to focus on your breathing. Focus on the air moving in and out of your nose and how it changes between inhaling and exhaling. Next, notice which parts of your body move when you take a breath. So, using these techniques, you can stop the shutdown of your frontal lobes, override the automatic response of your amygdala, and consciously control your response and use them the next time you're in a stressful situation. Now, another topic that I love to discuss is the link between stress and anxiety. Because stress and anxiety are two sides of the same coin. Stress is the result of demands on your brain or body, and it can be caused by an event or activity that makes you nervous or worrisome. Anxiety, on the other hand, is that same worry, fear, or unease. And anxiety can be a reaction to your stress, but it can also occur in people who have no obvious stressors. So let's talk about anxiety a little bit. Anxiety is your body's natural response to stress. It's a feeling of fear or apprehension about what's to come. So, the first day of school, going to a job interview, or giving a speech may cause most people to feel fearful and nervous. But if your feelings of anxiety are extreme and all consuming, last for longer than 6 months, and are interfering with your daily life, you may have an anxiety disorder. So, anxiety feels different depending on the person experiencing it. Feelings can range from butterflies in your stomach to a racing heart. You might feel out of control, like there's a disconnect between your mind and body. Other ways people experience anxiety include nightmares, panic attacks, and painful thoughts or memories that you can't control. You may have a general feeling of fear and worry, or you may fear a specific place or event. Symptoms of general anxiety include increased heart rate, rapid breathing, restlessness, trouble concentrating, and difficulty falling asleep. So, your anxiety symptoms might be different from someone else's, which is why it's important to know all the ways anxiety can present itself. And if you want more information about anxiety and how it affects your body, then there is a link in the description box for a blog post that I have that talks about anxiety, as well as another one that talks all about the ins and outs of stress. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, anxiety attack is is a feeling of overwhelming apprehension, worry, distress, or fear. For many people, an anxiety attack builds slowly. It may worsen as a stressful event approaches. And anxiety attacks can vary greatly, and symptoms may differ among individuals as well. And that's because many symptoms of anxiety don't happen to everyone and they can change over time. So, common symptoms of an anxiety attack include feeling faint or dizzy, shortness of breath, dry mouth, sweating, chills or hot flashes, apprehension and worry, restlessness, distress, fear, as well as numbness or tingling. A panic attack and anxiety attack share some common symptoms, but it's important to know that they are not the same. So, for self treatment, physical activity, a healthy diet, regular sleep, and relaxation exercises may all help to reduce anxiety. Joining a support group may also help. And to manage symptoms effectively, it's best to avoid caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine. And I'm pretty sure some of y'all are listening to this saying, F that, son. I need all the above. But no, they do negatively affect it. But anywho, if you are seeking medical care, it's important to seek a doctor immediately if you think about committing suicide or if you can't work or complete daily activity requirements. Now, you should also make an appointment to see a doctor if you can't work or maintain relationships, abuse alcohol or other substances, or if you feel sad and slow. Now, we're going to talk about how to understand burnout in order to prevent or heal from it. If you're feeling excessively tired after work, devoid of much energy, irritable, feeling down, demotivated, or a change in appetite, then you may have burnout. Most people will have experienced periods of emotional exhaustion or some level of burnout in their lives, especially if you are a busy professional. So burnout is about being woe out, child, and can affect any profession. And the impacts of burnout emerge gradually over time and are easily identified to direct links and stressors within the working and personal life. Things that inspire passion, drive, and enthusiasm are stripped away as tedious, unpleasant thoughts take over. People experiencing emotional exhaustion often feel like they have no power or control over what happens in life. They may feel stuck or trapped in a situation. And it differs from depression, which is characterized by poor self-esteem, guilt, as well as dark gray emotions and feelings. So, a lack of energy, poor sleep, and decreased motivation can make it difficult to overcome emotional exhaustion. And I'm telling you, this is why I started my coaching business. I was going through all of this, and it took at least 3 or 4 months for me to start to feel like I didn't have a void in my heart. I don't know, like I would be interacting with people, but it would just be like I was dead inside, I guess. But yeah. Anyone experiencing long-term stress can become emotionally exhausted and overwhelmed. In difficult times, emotional exhaustion can sneak up on you. Now, burnout is when we experience chronic stress from work or home, or both, and it's difficult to shake. Over time, this chronic stressed out state can cause permanent damage to your health, both mentally and physically. In some cases, it may force you to take time off from work to heal. Psychological and physiological harm can be caused in people who suffer from exhaustion that goes unchecked. Now, the majority of adults suffer from this chronic condition at least once in their lives, and the challenge in tackling it is twofold. First of all, most people believe such symptoms are just part of leading a busy life with many responsibilities or just part of getting older. Secondly, the mainstream medical community hasn't yet caught on to the condition and instead often write these symptoms off as signs of some other issue such as depression. Chronic stress left unchecked can develop into what is known as adrenal fatigue syndrome, or AFS. That's why understanding exactly how chronic stress affects your adrenal glands and your body in general is the key to understanding burnout and AFS. It will also help you approach the recovery process more holistically and intelligently. Chronic stress refers to any stressor that your body is exposed to consistently, from an unhealthy diet, excessive or no exercise, exposure to toxins, sleep disorders, blood sugar control, um, even digestive issues, and excessive caffeine intake. And keep in mind, I did include a self assessment for burnout and compassion fatigue in the description box below. So if you want to check, please go find the link and assess yourself. So keep in mind, burnout isn't just being very tired, which, I mean, of course, it's the main dimension of burnout is exhaustion, but it is a serious medical condition that can set off other problems, including depression, stroke, heart attacks, suicidal thoughts, breakdown. The last stage of chronic stress um, is burnout, and this occurs when all your energetic resources, emotional, physical, mental, but with no resources left to counter the catastrophic thoughts of stress, it's hard to contest false beliefs triggered by an ancient part of your brain that thinks you're about to die. Instead of being able to marshal analytical thought or physical willpower to fight back, there's nothing, a void where the engine used to be. And this feels very odd and fragile to people who always could bounce back. Now, burnout is a cumulative process in which the alarm signal of stress goes off day in and day out for a long period of time. The stress response is only supposed to go off for a brief time until you can fight or run your way out of danger, because the process it sets off are extremely harmful in large doses. The stress response suppresses the immune system, tissue repair, and digestion processes to focus on its task to drive blood to the arms and legs to fight or run from danger. So the longer chronic stress lasts, the more damage it does to your body and the more resources it depletes. The stress response increases the bad cholesterol and reduces the good kind. And I'm actually kind of glad that I'm doing this health coach PSA, because literally this is the thing that I have to continuously repeat to all of my coaching clients, or majority of my coaching clients, in the beginning of our coaching sessions, during our first coaching sessions, because they don't understand how chronic stress affects their body. And they're just in there talking about all the symptoms. And I'm like, this is textbook burnout, chronic stress, okay? So the usual response is to soldier on, but that doesn't work with burnout, since by the time you have it, there are no coping resources left. You're left with severe fatigue and feeling that nothing really matters anymore. Not your job, not success, the people you know, everything. You don't care anymore. But there is a way out of burnout. And the way out of burnout is first to reach out. When we are sick, we go to the doctor. But when it comes to stress and burnout, we are reluctant to get the expertise to get healthy. So the way out of burnout is to reach out. When we are sick, we go to a doctor. But when it comes to stress and burnout, we are reluctant to get the expertise to get healthy. And studies show that one of the most effective ways to overcome burnout is through stress management coaching and programs. The courage to reach out unlocks doors to restoring health. And honestly, that is one of the reasons why I created my coaching business. So when I was coaching individuals in a weight management program, half of them were excited to work with me, especially the females who are suffering from hormone imbalance issues, because I love helping people balance hormones. But the other half were people who would avoid it because they were type A. They felt like they knew everything. They didn't want people telling them what to do. They didn't want to feel guilty for not doing what they need to do, but they still wanted to be on the Wegovy or the Zepbound. We mainly did Wegovy. So they didn't want to be on They didn't want to be taken off the Wegovy, but they also didn't want coaching. And so a lot of people would reluctantly come to me and lie to me and just tell me what they thought I wanted to hear. And it would be really disappointing because I'm like, y'all are really cutting yourself short because you're sitting here struggling, not learning the lessons, but thinking you're making progress in life just because you lose 1 to 2 pounds a month. And coming from an exercise physiologist perspective, you are losing way too little weight with assistance. If you are on Wegovy, Zepbound, Manjaro, and you are only losing 1 or 2 pounds a month, there is something in your life that is preventing you from seeing better results, because ideally you should lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. So there's obviously something that is not being said, not being done, not being addressed. Stress and burnout thrive on silence and not saying anything, because the engine of it all is thinking and ruminating. It's ruminating over and over about a stress trigger that keeps the perceived danger alive and making your organs work overtime even when you are sleeping. And another thing I want to add in is that it's very easy for us to get addicted to chronic stress. And a lot of people feel guilty for not being busy, for having downtime. I know there are some people that say, oh man, when I feel down, when I sit down, I feel like I should be doing something. It's like there will always be something to do. You need to focus on resting yourself. And if you feel like that, that's a telltale sign that your nervous system is shot and you need to work on rebalancing it. And if you're not sure if you're suffering from burnout, here are some signs. First one is feeling constantly time poor. Do you find yourself constantly saying, I never have time for? If you feel as though tasks on your to-do list are being overtaken by your work to-do list, it could be worth stepping back and reassessing how much energy you're giving to work. Now, if you're struggling with small changes, can be another sign of burnout, because when we're struggling with stress, the smallest change in plan is enough to set us spiraling. For example, if you planned your week at work to the minute to ensure you get everything done, and you get an unexpected email from your boss asking you to do just one quick thing, it can quickly become a proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Another sign is feeling exhausted and run down. I mean, sure, we all feel the need to turn to coffee sometimes, but if you're feeling tired every day, you could be suffering from burnout. And when we become overloaded and with stress and overwhelm, our body and mind want to shut down to conserve energy, making us feel exhausted. Next, coming down with more illnesses. Because chronic stress affects our immune system and can leave us susceptible to illness. If you feel like you're picking up every bug going around, look at your self-care regimen and stress levels to see if something's out of whack. Lastly, if you're feeling like you've checked out, you might be dealing with burnout or adrenal fatigue syndrome. Because this is another way our minds try to cope with overwhelm. You may start to feel demotivated, cynical, and like there's no point in what you're doing. You may struggle to make decisions and start procrastinating. Let's talk about managing stress, baby. While it may seem like there's nothing you can do about stress at work and home, there are steps you can take to relieve the pressure and regain control. Effective stress management helps you break the hold stress has on your life so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. The ultimate goal is a balanced life with time for work, relationships, relaxation, and fun, and the resilience to hold up under pressure and meet challenges head on. But stress management is not one size fits all. That's why it's important to experiment and find out what works best for you. And the following stress management tips can help you do just that. So, number 1, identify the sources of stress in your life. Because stress management starts with identifying the sources of stress in your life. And this isn't as straightforward as it sounds. While it's easy to identify major stressors such as changing jobs, moving, or going through a divorce, pinpointing the sources of chronic stress can be more complicated. It's all too easy to overlook how your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors contribute to your everyday stress levels. Sure, you may know that you're constantly worried about work deadlines, but maybe it's your procrastination rather the actual job demands that is causing the stress. To identify your true sources of stress, look closely at your habits, attitude, and excuses. Do you explain away stress as temporary? Saying things like, oh, I just have a million things going on right now, even though you can't remember the last time you took a breather? Or do you define stress as an integral part of your work or home life? Like things are always crazy around here. Oh, it is what it is. Or do you take it as part of your personality and say like, I just have like a lot of nervous energy, and like that's all. I'm just hyper. Or do you blame your stress on other people or outside events, or view it as entirely normal and unexceptional? Until you accept responsibility for the role you play in creating or maintaining it, your stress level will remain outside your control. And so, one thing you can do is to start a stress journal. And a stress journal can help you identify the regular stressors in your life and the way you deal with them. Each time you feel stressed, keep track of it in your journal or use a stress tracker on your phone. Keeping a daily log will enable you to see patterns and common themes. You could write things down such as what caused your stress, and if you're not sure, you can take a guess. How you felt both physically and emotionally, how you acted in response, and what did you do to make yourself feel better? So, tip number 2 is to practice the 4 A's of stress management. Now, while stress is an automatic response for your nervous system, some stressors arise at predictable times, such as your commute to work, a meeting with your boss, or family gatherings, for example. When handling such predictable stressors, you can either change the situation or change your reaction. And when deciding which option to choose in any given scenario, it's helpful to think of the 4 A's: avoid, alter, adapt, or accept. So the first one is to avoid unnecessary stress. It's not healthy to avoid a stressful situation that needs to be addressed, but you may be surprised by the number of stressors in your life that you can eliminate. First thing, learn how to say no. Know your limits and stick to them. Whether in your personal or professional life, taking on more than you can handle is such a surefire recipe for stress. So it's important to distinguish between the shoulds and the musts, and when possible, to say no on taking on too much. And I think sometimes we get in these family dynamics, relationship dynamics, and work dynamics where we feel like we have an obligation to do something, even though our spirit or soul is saying, like, hell no. All right. So keep that in mind. If you need help, I do have a happiness reset blueprint you can access, and it will help you learn how to take back the layers of limiting beliefs, such as pressures of outside people and voices and society pressures saying that you have to do certain things. Yeah, you can access that as well. And it's also in this playlist. So just check out my channel and find that playlist if you want to. But anywho, the next thing you can do is avoid people who stress you out. Now, if someone consistently causes stress in your life, limit the amount of time you spend with that person or end the relationship. And this goes for work too. If there's a place you love, but a person you hate that keeps stirring up your spirit, don't sacrifice your health, your happiness, your mental well-being for the sake of somebody who is determined on keeping you out of balance. Okay. Now, sometimes we can't avoid these people. And if that's the case, then you need to limit the amount of time you spend with that person. All right. And next is to take control of your environment. If the evening makes you anxious or angry, turn off the TV. If traffic makes you tense, take a longer but less traveled route. And if going to the market is an unpleasant chore, do your grocery shopping online. And lastly, you can always trim down your to do list. Analyze your schedule, responsibilities, and daily tasks. If you got too much on your plate, drop tasks that aren't truly necessary to the bottom of the list or just eliminate them. Next step of the 4 A's is to alter the situation. If you can't avoid a stressful situation, try to alter it. Often this involves changing the way you communicate and operate in your daily life. First off, you can express your feelings instead of bottling them up. If someone is bothering you, be more assertive and communicate your concerns openly and respectively. If you got an exam to study for and your chatty roommate just got home, say up front that you have only 5 minutes to talk. If you don't voice your feelings, resentment will build and the stress will increase. Next, you must be willing to compromise. When you ask someone to change their behavior, you must be willing to do the same. If you both are willing to bend at least a little, you will have a good chance of finding a happy middle ground. A good quote to remember is that the oak fought the wind and was broken, but the willow bent when it should have and survived. Lastly, you can create a balanced schedule. All work and no play is a recipe for burnout. So it's important to try to find balance between work and family life, social activities and solitary pursuits, as well as daily responsibilities and downtime. All right, so next, you can adapt to the stressor. If you can't change the stressor, change yourself. You can adapt to stressful situations and regain your sense of control by changing your expectations and attitude. Reframe problems. Try to view stressful situations from a more positive perspective rather than fuming about a traffic jam. So rather than being pissed off about a traffic jam, look at it as an opportunity to pause and regroup. Listen to your favorite radio station or podcast, or enjoy some alone time. Next, look at the big picture. Take perspective of the stressful Take perspective of the stressful situation or event. Ask yourself how important it will be in the long run. Will it matter in a month? A year? Is it worth getting upset over? If the answer is no, then focus your time and energy elsewhere. Next, adjust your standards. Perfectionism is a major source of avoidable stress. Stop setting yourself up for failure by demanding perfection. Set reasonable standards for yourself and others and learn to be okay with good enough. And lastly, practice gratitude. When stress is getting you down, take a moment to reflect on all the things you appreciate in your life, including your positive qualities and gifts. This simple strategy can help you keep things in perspective. One of the last things you can do is with the 4 A's is to accept the things you can't change. Now, some sources of stress are unavoidable. You can't prevent or change stressors such as death of a loved one, a serious illness, or a national recession. In such cases, the best way to cope with stress is to accept things as they are. Acceptance may be difficult, but in the long run, it's easier than railing against a situation you can't change. First thing you can do is to not try to control the uncontrollable. Many things in life are beyond our control, particularly the behavior of other people. Rather than stressing out over them, focus on the things you can control, such as the way you choose to react to problems. Next, look for the upside. Accept the fact that we live in an imperfect world and that people make mistakes. Let go of anger and resentment. Free yourself from negative energy by forgiving and moving on. And lastly, share your feelings. Expressing what you're going through can be very cathartic, even if there's nothing you can do to alter the stressful situation. Talk to a trusted friend or make an appointment with a therapist or mental health counselor that can lend a empathetic ear. All right, so tip number three is to get moving. And you should not be surprised that exercise physiologist is sneaking this in there, okay, in this emotional resilience PSA. Because when you're stressed, the last thing you probably feel like doing is getting up and exercising. But physical activity is a huge stress reliever, and you don't have to be an athlete or spend hours in a gym to experience the benefits. Exercise releases endorphins that make you feel good, and it can also serve as a valuable distraction from your daily worries. While you get the most benefit from regularly exercising for 30 minutes or more, it's okay to build up your fitness level gradually. Even very small activities can add up over a day. The first step is to get yourself up and moving. So, here are some easy ways to incorporate exercise into your daily schedule. Number one, put on some music and dance around. Next, take your dog for a walk. Uh, you can also walk or cycle to the grocery store. You can use the stairs at home or work rather than an elevator. Park your car in the farthest spot possible in the lot and walk the rest of the way. You can pair up with an exercise partner and encourage each other as you work out. Or you can also play a sport such as ping pong or any activity-based video game with your kids. And if you want more information about putting purpose behind movement, okay, and so now I know it can be really hard to feel motivated to do anything if you're burnt out or dealing with stressful mental or emotional things. So if you need more insight on how to put purpose behind your movement to help shift certain areas in your life, please check out the link in the description box to access my Purpose Behind Movement blog. All right. So while just about any form of physical activity can help burn away tension or stress, rhythmic activities are especially effective. And now that I think about it, my first interaction with exercise was dancing. I was taught dance from fourth grade up until my junior year in college, and it was one of the hardest things to to drop my minor in college, because I had a minor in dance and I had to drop it in order to focus on my exercise science major. And it was one of the hardest things to do because I never loved anything more than dance. And so naturally I moved to physical exercise. So that kind of helped me during it. But over time, as I was able to free up my time and schedule, I always found a way to incorporate dance back into my life to help me stay passionate. But anywho, other than regular dancing, good choices of rhythmic exercise include walking, running, swimming, cycling, tai chi, and aerobics, even step class. Anything where you have to keep a tempo to a beat is considered rhythmic exercise. But whatever you choose, make sure it's something you enjoy, so you're most likely to stick with it. And that's why it's so fun to try different things. And I know when I was staying in Atlanta, I used ClassPass to try out a lot of different gyms, and I love ClassPass. Unfortunately, they do not have a lot of fitness things in where I'm living now. So, for anybody that wants to try out a bunch of different things, I highly recommend ClassPass as a way to try out a bunch of different exercise modalities without buying a bunch of different memberships at a bunch of different gyms. Okay. So while you're exercising, It's important to make a conscious effort to pay attention to your body and the physical and sometimes emotional sensations you experience as you're moving. Focus on coordinating your breathing with your movements, for example, or notice how the air or sunlight feels on your skin. Adding this mindfulness element will help you break out of the cycle of negative thoughts that often accompanies overwhelming stress. Tip number 4 is to connect to others because there is nothing more calming than spending quality time with other human beings who make you feel safe and understood. In fact, face-to-face interactions triggers a cascade of hormones that counteracts the body's defensive fight or flight response. It's nature's natural stress reliever bonus. It and as a bonus, it also helps to keep off depression and anxiety. So, it's important to make it a point to connect regularly and in person with family and friends. And keep in mind that the people you talk to don't have to be able to fix your stress. They simply need to be good listeners. And try not to let worries about looking weak or being a burden keep you from opening up. The people who care about you will be flattered by your trust, and it will only strengthen your bond. Now, of course, it's not always realistic to have a pal close by to lean on when you're feeling overwhelmed by stress. But by building and maintaining a network of close friends, you can improve your resiliency to life stressors. If you want to build relationships with others to create a bigger heart coherence, and I'm not going to get into heart coherence, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do um, I may do another PSA about that heart coherence later this year. Okay. But anywho, tips for building relationships include: one, reach out to others. But anywho, tips for building relationships includes reaching out to a colleague at work, helping someone by volunteering, having lunch or coffee with a friend, asking a loved one to check in with you regularly, accompany someone to the movies or a concert, call or email an old friend, go for a walk with a workout buddy, schedule a weekly dinner date, as well as meet new people by taking a class or joining a club. Now, tip number 5 is to make time for fun and relaxation. Because beyond a take charge approach and a positive attitude, you can reduce stress in your life by carving out me time. So don't get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that you forget to take care of your own needs. Nurturing yourself is a necessity, not a luxury. If you regularly make time for fun and relaxation, you'll be in a better place to handle life stressors. So set aside leisure time. Include rest and relaxation in your daily schedule. Don't allow other obligations to impede on it as well. Remember, this is your time to take a break from all responsibilities and recharge your batteries. It's also important to do something you enjoy every day. Make time for leisure activities that bring you joy, whether it be stargazing, playing the piano, or working on your bike. You can also keep your sense of humor. This includes the ability to laugh at yourself. The act of laughing helps your body fight stress in several ways. And this also probably why social media apps, social media influencers can become so successful, because they are helping people reduce stress by giving them something to laugh at, something to motivate them to keep going, something to help soften their heart or warm their heart after a tough day. So keep that in mind. Lastly, you can take up a relaxation practice. Relaxation techniques such as yoga, meditation, and deep breathing activates the body's relaxation response and a state of restfulness that is the opposite of the fight or flight mobilization stress response. As you learn and practice these techniques, your stress levels will decrease and your mind and body will become calm and centered. Tip number 6 is to manage your time better. Poor time management can cause a lot of stress. And when you're stretched too thin and running behind, it's hard to stay calm and focused. Plus, you'll be tempted to avoid or cut back on all the healthy things you should be doing to keep stress in check, like socializing and getting enough sleep. The good news, there are things you can do to achieve a healthier work life balance. First, don't overcommit yourself. Avoid scheduling things back to back or trying to fit too much into one day. All too often, we underestimate how long things will take. Next, prioritize tasks. Make a list of tasks you have to do and tackle them in order of importance. Do the high priority items first. If you have something particularly unpleasant or stressful to do, get it over with early. And then the rest of your day will be more pleasant as a result. Next, break projects into small steps. If a large project seems overwhelming, make a step-by-step plan. Focus on one manageable step at a time rather than taking on everything at once. Lastly, delegate responsibility. You don't have to do it all yourself, whether at home, school, or on the job. If other people can take care of the task, why not let them? Let go of the desire to control or oversee every little step. You'll be letting go of unnecessary stress in the process. Tip number 7 is to maintain balance with a healthy lifestyle. So, in addition to regular exercise, there are other healthy lifestyle choices that can increase your resistance to stress. First, you can consume a healthy diet because well-nourished bodies are better prepared to cope with stress. So be mindful of what you eat. Start your day right with breakfast and keep your energy up and your mind clear with balanced, nutritious meals throughout the day. I know one thing I go over with coaching clients all the time is that, well, when I wake up in the morning, I don't really feel hungry, so I don't eat anything until lunchtime. And I'll tell you right now, that is a telltale sign that you're dealing with chronic stress, anxiety, or burnout, or adrenal fatigue syndrome. Because after sleeping 8 hours, if you sleep that much, you should wake up hungry because your body has not had any nourishment. And so if you have 7 to 8, even 5 to 8 hours of sleep, and then you go until noon, 1 or 2 to eat lunch, you're running on fumes. Okay. It is what it is. All right. So yeah, that's why I always start with like stress management techniques first, then try to change the diet, and then incorporate exercise. That's why I created entire coaching programs to walk people, busy professionals, through the process of healing and restoring their bodies in such a way because it will allow them to slow down and realize, hey, I do have the time. Hey, I am able to do all the things that I said I can't do. Okay. But anywho, another thing you can do is to reduce caffeine and sugar because the temporary highs caffeine and sugar provide often end with a crash in mood and energy. But by reducing the amount of coffee, soft drinks, chocolate, and sugar snacks in your diet, you'll feel more relaxed and you'll sleep better. Another thing you can do is to avoid alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. Self-medicating with alcohol or drugs may provide an easy escape from stress, but the relief is only temporary. Don't avoid or mask the issue at hand. Instead, it's important to deal with problems head on with a clear mind. And lastly, get enough sleep. Adequate sleep fuels your mind as well as your body. Feeling tired will increase your stress because it may cause you to think irrationally. All right. And lastly, tip number 8 is to learn to relieve stress in the moment. Because when you're frazzled by your morning commute, stuck in a stressful meeting at work, or fried from another argument with your spouse, friend, family member, or lover, you need a way to manage your stress levels in the moment, like right now. And that's where quick relief stress comes in. All right. So the fastest way to reduce stress is by taking a deep breath and using your senses. I'm pretty sure if you've gone through therapy or if you have PTSD or anxiety or panic attack, um, a mental health provider would tell you, like, what do you see, hear, taste, touch? All right, like mindfulness. I know I'm making a joke about it, but it really does help. You can also do a soothing movement. One thing that my school taught me was how to do the transformational touch technique. It's basically like hand movements and hand gestures to help you restore bring your mind back to your body and relieve stress in a moment. Okay. There is a link to the video on instructions on how to do it in the description box. There are also other things you can do, such as viewing a favorite photo, smelling a specific scent, listening to your favorite piece of music. You can also hug a pet, for example, and you can quickly relax and focus yourself. Of course, not everyone responds to each sensory experience in the same way, but the key to quick stress relief is to experiment and discover the unique sensory experiences that work best for you. So, in conclusion, the modern world is full of stress, and we often feel this psychological stress when we see things on the news or social media, such as dangerous events, political turmoil, or natural disasters. And your amygdala can respond to the stress as if it's a physical threat to you. It can take control of your brain and trigger your fight or flight response. But you can prevent or stop an amygdala hijacking by breathing, slowing down, and trying to focus your thoughts. This allows your frontal cortex to regain control. You can then choose the most reasonable and appropriate way to respond to the situation. Now, practicing these techniques regularly can help prepare you for stressful situations. Yourself first. So, all right, so before I go, you must always remember that you need to be a priority in your own life. You cannot give everything you have to others and expect to still feel good, okay? Though you may feel pressure from all around you, putting yourself first will be your first line of defense against burnout. So you will always bring your best self to the table when you take care of yourself first. Now, that is it for this month's Health Coach PSA, Masterclass, webinar, whatever you want to call it. And if you need help or support, please know that in honor of May being National Mental Health Awareness Month, I am taking 50% off all coaching sessions, including my one-on-one Stress Alchemy coaching program, if you want all the fixings to reclaim your entire life. There's also a link for my $99 Mind Body Mastery special that will last after Mental Health Awareness Month is over. So if you watch this after May. Now, keep in mind, I do have my new course. Now, keep in mind that I did just release my Busy Professionals Guide to Resilience, Metabolism, and Performance. And you can buy it as a bundle, or you can buy each individual lesson as you need it. Keep that in mind. You can visit thestewproject.com if you want to look at all my resources and services. I think that's it. So I hope this helps. Links in the description box for all the resources I have mentioned throughout this masterclass, PSA, whatever you want to call it. I hope this helps. And until next time, y'all, happy healing.